All right.
Ooh.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Great introduction, and you got your name right.
Yes. Yes, listen, awesome.
Makes you feel good.
Yes.
So, episode number 3 live now.
Yes. The first one went horribly wrong last year.
Yeah, but that's because everybody was drinking. SharePoint is not a good time to do a presentation.
That's true. The one we did 2 hours ago around search went magically awesome.
Yep, so this one is going to get really screwed up.
Yeah. We'll see.
Who cares?
We'll see.
Listen, we've got some hashtags on here and some Twitter addresses. So if you are listening to us and watching to us, why don't you send us a quick tweet, say hi, just to Office 365 Distilled. That's the name of the podcast. But yes, we're going to talk about the business aspects of Project Cortex.
Super. It's very cool. Yeah. Yes. Cool. So before we start, some mandatory slides. So we can't go to the Las Vegas SharePoint Conference anymore.
You mean we're not in Vegas?
We're not in Vegas. We're in virtual realm of Brussels, Belgium, planet Earth. Yes, exactly. So I always want to speak at the SharePoint Conference. I can't do that anymore because now it's gonna be named the Microsoft 365 Collaboration Conference, which I think is a better name because with Teams and all the other apps on there, it's kind of stupid to still call it SharePoint.
Cool.
So looking forward to that next year. Because I didn't travel that much this year, maybe I could do an extra trip next year and actually go to Vegas.
Maybe. I think you said that last year.
Yeah, but this year I've got an extra voucher because I'm not going to ignore. So, anyway, thank you as well to all our generous sponsors. So it's awesome to see that they've all these big names that I know that I've worked with their tools. They're all here to sponsor this awesome event. It really is a marathon, especially for me because this is my 4th session of the day. So. Phew. I might need a whiskey and a cigar after this. Okay. Anyway, cool. So thank you to the sponsors. If you're here, please take a look at this charity relief funds.
I think this is easy. I think this is such a cool option. Listen, guys, we're supposed to be in Vegas, okay? How much would you have dropped on the tables if you were actually in Vegas at this point? $40, $50? And you would have expected to donate it to this. And we can make over $100,000, $200,000 for a brilliant cause.
That is very true.
And you won't feel the pain.
That is very true.
Just think, number 10 on the red. Number 10 on the red, just as you press your credit card number.
Yes, exactly. One slide we didn't include, I'm just noticing that right now, but it's a slide you've probably seen 100 times today, is the raffle. So go visit the sponsor booths, go visit, watch the videos, and enter the raffle for the awesome Oculus Quest. I already have one.
So he doesn't need one, and I've won the one in Europe. So, yeah.
He wishes. But if you win it, you have to add me at Marijn Somers on the Quest to your friends and try to beat me with Beat Saber because I'm a master and commander of Beat Saber. So feel free to try and challenge me on that one. So without any further ado, who are we? Oh.
We didn't take out the, that's okay.
We didn't take out the automatic transition after 0.3 seconds.
Yeah.
Exactly. So then again, who are we?
Who are we? We're Office 365 Distilled podcast. We may have had some listeners on. We've been doing this for nearly 2 years now. Started off as a, let's try this for a couple of weeks. And yeah, we sit in a bar and we talk crap about Office 365. But then we get to a really exciting whiskey that we hope you've never tasted, and we tell you all about that. My name's Steve Dalby. I'm the guy, it's just the better looking guy. I think I'll go with the one in the blue shirt, looks younger. All right.
But I want to say the guy with the red shirt, but this time I'm wearing a red shirt, so that's not gonna fly.
I've been doing SharePoint since it first came out as Team Services, Project Tahoe, and Office 365, of course. Basically, I focus on collaboration, and I focus in an agile space. And our organizations and IT departments are kind of able to really understand the business need and the business value, hence the title of this presentation. Yeah, we talk about that a lot on the podcast.
True, true. So my name is Marijn Somers. I've been doing SharePoint for 14 years, a number of technologies in Office 365 for the last few years, of course. I'm an MVP since a year and a little bit now. Thank you. But my main focus is also business side, with a little dabble on the technology parts as well. Just to configure things, try some things with PowerShell, but I'm not really a developer. I'm more,
you know what they say, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing.
It's true. And today we're doing a session on knowledge management, so, oh.
Wow, that was good. That was quick.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Anyway, that's us. You'll find us on Spotify. Just search for Office 365 Distilled. It's funny. It's a laugh. You'll always learn something new. And if you're new to whiskey, hopefully we'll introduce you to something that you'd enjoy.
Absolutely, yeah. And we're not only on Spotify, we're on all the major podcast providers like iTunes, like whatever you're using.
And we're not really selling it because it is free, just to let you know. Let's move on.
For now. Okay. Anyway, let's get to the bits that you actually want to see and want to hear us talk about.
Okay, so for the next 42 minutes now, we're going to try and talk about knowledge management from a different perspective. Okay, I believe for a long time that IT, to be successful, they have to be close to the business, and it's not the easiest thing to do. But with Project Cortex, you have no choice. Okay, we are going to be introducing a product around knowledge management, and we're going to explain in a little while my perspective in terms of what knowledge management actually is. So business to IT is something that I really want to sell in this session, so that in you and your organizations, my words today, obviously you've done 4 of them too. Anyway, in your organization, take a lot of really good, useful things back to be able to get closer. So we're going to talk about knowledge, the road to creativity and innovation. If you've listened to any of the videos from Microsoft on Project Cortex, they start to talk about creativity, and I'll explain why that is. We're going to touch on the roles in Cortex, what they are and where they fit. I'm sure, again, you've seen the slides. There's not a lot of technology in this. We're not going to go around technology. We're talking about why the business are important to make Cortex successful. So we'll look at how we can set it up, how we can maintain a high quality service, and then we'll finish off, as we always do, with some practical steps that you can take right now.
Absolutely, and that's definitely a good disclaimer. This is not going to be a techie session. This is going to be a business-focused session. We are not going to showcase any new Cortex functionality that you haven't seen before. We leave that up to Naomi and Chris McNulty to do those things. So this is purely a view of us looking at how we can implement Cortex to get the business farther ahead.
But we should really emphasize that we both believe that if you're going to be successful with Cortex and pay the price, we don't know what it's going to be yet, for those extra Cortex services, getting the business on board is key. Money.
Okay, cool. So let's first, for those 1 or 2 people in the world that have never heard about Project Cortex, what is Project Cortex? Well, Project Cortex is something new that's going to come out this summer, so in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And it is a knowledge management tool built in Office 365. So what it will do is it will connect people to knowledge. So people, when they are looking at their Word, Outlook, or somewhere else, they will see specific words underlined. They can click on those. They will get a topic card. And when they follow that topic card, when they click through those links, they will go to topic pages where they will see more information around that specific topic. There's also a system that will, in an intelligent, artificial intelligence driven way, will categorize content, and that will automate specific processes. Like, for example, invoices, they will all be automatically, metadata will automatically be driven from that as well. Third part is there's some content compliance as well there. So everything that will be on there will be compliant and secure.
Compliant and secure.
Definitely.
We'll touch on that a little bit later as well.
Yes. So this is all driven by Microsoft Graph, the Knowledge Graph, and Microsoft AI with content services in there as well. So how does that look? So for example, I'm in Teams, I'm looking at my chat, and I see that in this case, Emily has written some text to me, written a chat to me, and in this case, I'm seeing Project Core being underlined. I can hover over it with my mouse. I get that that little card in here that already gives me more information about this topic, this Project Core.
Who's Emily?
I don't know.
Okay.
You want to get her number?
No,
I can ask for
just
her
writing to you. Yeah, I guess
yeah,
you probably can. That's true. Yeah.
And then if you click through, this will bring you to the Knowledge Center. So this will bring you to a specific page where you can find a number of things around that specific topic. So around that specific Project Core that you clicked through on. So what you will get is you will get an overview. So you'll get the acronym, a little question and answer. You get people that are involved with it. You get a number of documents, resources that have been tagged with that Project Core that you looked at. And this is where that security and compliance comes in as well. So you will only see documents that you're allowed to see. So only that kind of information. So the same thing with the topics. You will only see topics that you're allowed to see. So those will be the resources, sites where this has been mentioned, related topics, super cool functionality, questions and answers, project details, and you can change those pages to make it your own and to actually have your own information on there and to make it workable for your audiences.
And the whole point of this is that the technology is driving that, which obviously from an IT perspective we know about. But we actually have no idea that core is a particular key business attribute in this case. And that is why the business is so important to Project Cortex and understanding that. So what we're hoping to cover today, and hope to teach you today, is to get some of those steps in place, ready for Project Cortex as it wanders around the corner, and how you can set up these topics, the kind of people that need to be involved in that, and how you can get closer to the business to make sure that it's adding value. Value is, my objective is to say value at least 500 times in this presentation. There's the first time. Value, second time. But yeah, so remember that those knowledge items have to come from the business.
Yeah, sure. And then that knowledge item in your knowledge center is actually just one little node into a big web. So this is where the AI comes in, and well, it comes in much earlier. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
But this is also where it can connect all kinds of pieces of information that might not be related at first sight, but the AI will come in and it will actually make those connections, connect those dots for you.
What's really interesting about this is that, I know we're going to hit on that in a second, but knowledge has been around a while. Okay, it's just that we've had to deal with it manually. And just the same as managed metadata and search, when they were kind of thrown in here, it was because the business was not really being able to sort of take search and term sets and all those kinds of things and really be able to make the most of them, and everything was manually done. And what we're getting now is driven by graph and AI and making those great connections and suggesting them to us, and then we can say, yes, that is a key point. I really need to grow that area within the business. And it knows all those connections, of course. So this is a really, really great use of graph to be able to suggest to people. We have to have the people aspect of it as we move forward. So yeah, I like that. It's my favorite slide, that. We'll cover a bit more later. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. So this is a knowledge management system. So we need to really understand where knowledge comes from. So knowledge is the root of all innovation. Yeah, it's based on the kind of biblical quote here, you know, money is the root of all evil, but knowledge is the root of all innovation. And it's absolutely true. But what is knowledge? And I asked you this question the other day because we talked about it, and I kind of said data, information, and knowledge. And before they went missing, I used to have a great van, and that was plastered along the back of the van. Data can best be described as a single piece of information. So I always go with it. It's raining. And that's data. It's a fact, you know. And the point about that fact is it's useless on its own. You know, where is it raining? Is it raining outside? Is it raining in Timbuktu?
Is it raining very hard?
Is it raining hard? Is it blue rain or red rain or? Well, okay, let's not go there. It's a late night. It's been going on a long, long day. But yes, that data that is raining is useless until we had a second piece of data. It's raining outside. Now I have some information that I can have context to. So when you add two pieces of data together, you get this information. And we do a lot of that in SharePoint today. So we get a lot of lists with metadata, document libraries with metadata. And when you add those documents and those metadata together, you actually get a lot of information that you can use. And then people looking at it find that it's relative. So yes, it's raining in Brussels. Okay. How does that turn into information? Into knowledge. Yeah, thank you. So the important thing about knowledge is you add the people, and you only get knowledge when you add the people. So if I say that it's raining in Brussels, then that might be relevant to me because I have to drive to Brussels in the next 20 minutes, whereas it's irrelevant to you, so it's of no interest. It might be of interest that it's raining or the document with a particular metadata, but until you need that information or until it adds value to you or you can add value to it and it's relative, it's not really knowledge. And it gets really interesting when you think about the bigger picture, and I hope you remember this as we move forward, that data is just a fact. Add a couple of data items together and you get some information because it adds relevance and context to each other. But when you can make a decision based on that information, and that decision is then recorded somewhere so that somebody else can see the consequences of that decision, then you have knowledge. And I found this really, really good quote. Innovation, the heart of the knowledge economy, is fundamentally social. So innovation, the heart of the knowledge economy, okay? We know what the knowledge economy is. We look at it over the last few years. And the way that it's grown is based upon that knowledge, and it's fundamentally social. It's about taking that information, adding the people, sharing it around a team of people, and coming up with something that is new, something that is innovative, because no idea comes from nowhere.
True.
A couple of examples. Facebook. Okay, was Facebook a new idea? Not really. No. If you read the autobiographies, if you watch the movies, if you look at the history, it was a couple of guys that wanted to get a couple of girls and get opinions on those things, and they came up with this new idea called Facebook. And of course, you look at Facebook today, starting off from that original idea, but it's based on that knowledge, the knowledge of people wanting to understand people. eBay, innovation. Auctions went around all over the place. It was based on the knowledge of what an auction does and the way that an auction makes money. Yeah, I actually love to do that in the weekends. Just drive around until you hit some kind of garage sale and just go look through everything. And now I just need to sit behind my computer and just look for, if I now look for something because I broke my clicker, for example, I now need to find another one. I can just look at that across the whole world, and somebody in the world might sell that, and I would never have encountered that on a that's a perfect example of knowledge in my mind. In that the clicker is a piece of information, you know what it does, but you know what you're going to use it for. Yeah. And you know how you can use it, and then you can tell other people on how you can use it, and you're sharing that knowledge. Sure. So that innovation comes from this clicker is perfect, except that I never have anything to put the finger behind it. It would be good if there was and you're building and developing. Heineken, I had a great story with Heineken in terms of knowledge databases, is that a few years ago it was quite popular for fruit beer. So, people sort of started buying this fruit beer, and it started to grow. And of course, as an organization, Heineken needs to get into those kinds of markets. They don't want to lose market share. But around 20 odd years ago, they'd already been experimenting with fruit beer, and they had a knowledge base. They had all of this knowledge from other people that had actually been making beer and putting fruit into it. And originally, this was kind of over 30 or 40 years old. This resource it had been moved into data, and I think when I got to it before it went SharePoint wise, it was actually on Lotus Notes. But they were able to pull those recipes out, and they were slightly different because they'd been used 20 years ago, and then hit the market with running in terms of a new product and getting there without it passing by. So innovation is always based on knowledge, and that's what Microsoft have been saying here in the Project Cortex, because of that ability to join people together with AI and with the graph, and then add in the people aspect of it, the knowledge manager. We're going to touch on that a little bit later. Then creativity will come out of it, and that's where they're coming from. And I think this is awesome. Yeah. I have to say. So,
and if you're not creative, if you're not innovating, your organization will be doomed.
Yes, it will. If it has something that needs to be repaired, that's all great. If it needs something that moves forward, if it's absolutely, innovation is key. Creativity is key.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, how can we do these things today, or how have we been doing these things today? Because we don't have Cortex today, or we didn't have it for the last few years. So how did we do it right now? So it has always been a manual process for now. So what you would do is you would probably get a term set somewhere that you have some managed metadata that you can use across your sites. And you would probably set up a SharePoint sites or SharePoint pages to actually write down all that information on. You maybe even build a template so that every topic page would look the same, and you would put some web parts on there, like content query web parts, some highlighted content web parts, things like that, to actually grab all that information. For example, that project core that we were using as an example. So if you would put that in the term set, you would tag documents with it, you would tag pages with it, then you could make them appear on your project core topic page. So that is how we would do that today. And then what is extra is with the new Microsoft Search, you can actually set your bookmarks and set your Q&A to actually have that project core topic page appear as a best bet, as a bookmark when people are searching for that. So
on top of that, and just before you finish the slide, we also have a concept that came out in 2007, 2010, which is the concept of audiences.
Yes.
Where you would actually be able to create a group of people and with a certain amount of rules around it, or whether it's an AD group or a SharePoint group, and actually tag particular items for that particular audience.
Yeah.
So when they went to the page, that was the content that was at the top. And that was the early days of knowledge management, but it wasn't really very successful because everything had to be manually done. You needed a lot of people to make sure the right people were in the right audience, and you also needed people to be in the audience. And it kind of died off a bit, even though audiences have been around in the last, 2010, 2013. It's not really been popular. It's kind of one step of administration too many.
Yeah.
And so yes, there was always the ability to do this knowledge management, but of course, what Microsoft have done again is made it easy for us.
Absolutely, because on the one hand, we've got that search. We can make those topic pages in a manual way. On the other hand, we also have that graph available to us. Yeah. So we can already use things like, for example, Delph. But the issue is Delph will only surface that information of all the people around me. So all the people in my bubble, that information will bubble up.
Well, that's cool.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
Why didn't we think about that one before today? Because we would have been really good about that.
Yes. So what about the rest of that information? What about maybe somebody in another country, because I'm working in multinational, somebody in another country has this brilliant idea, has written a really nice document around that, and that could solve my problem. How can we get those two connected? How can I learn about all the other information that is there in my company?
That's right. You wouldn't even know to search for it because you didn't know it was there. And that's what Microsoft have done. They've actually been able to connect those things together. And because of, we saw my favorite slide earlier, because of those interconnections, they can go, hey, this subject, that subject, and this is how you're connected. And yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the key area we're trying to talk about is value. Okay, and there's a number of relationships already existing between business and between information technology. And a couple of hours ago, we talked about how this relationship is needed to be able to manage search. We also talked about how the paradigm is changing in that at the moment, we tell business, hey, this is a bunch of IT stuff here, and they give back some little information around what they need and what they want. And that paradigm is changing. In an agile world, the business is now very strong in sending to the message to the end to IT. This is how we want something to work and what it needs to deliver, and that it will value to us. And IT then have a very small feedback process because they can just deliver very precisely what they need. So facilitating knowledge management is that role of IT. That has not been taken away from them. Cortex is not going to remove. Is it going to be called Project Cortex when it launches?
I hope not.
Is it going to be called something? Have we got a new magic name coming out?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have a,
Maybe we need to do a raffle on who comes up with the best name.
We could do that. Anyway, so when Cortex comes around, then IT obviously have the role to facilitate that, so that they can facilitate the value that the business needs from that product. So the solution is that at the moment, you need to start identifying that information that could turn into knowledge. So if you think about that fruit beer, it was just a set of information. It was a fact at some point. Yeah, water, hops, fruit, put them together. We got beer. We've got and it tasted okay, or nobody will buy it, or whatever the decision was.
The market was not ready for it.
Yeah. But you need to work out what that information is in knowledge. Now, not because you have to drive Cortex. That's where the AI comes in. But there's a role here, okay, around that knowledge to make sure that it's knowledge that is useful. And we'll get into all of that. But for now, just look at your information. If you've got file shares, SharePoint sites that have got data on there that is 5 or 6 years old, that hasn't been removed, then when that gets searched and gets hit, fine, it may well be useful, but it also could get in the way, especially if it's stuff that is completely irrelevant. So, preparing for Cortex with a bit of a clear up, with a bit of an understanding about storage, working out what that information is that is key to your business, that is useful as knowledge, is cool. And then the definition of knowledge itself, I love this. I read this something over the weekend. I think it was a short story or a paper or something. But knowledge is created when a brain interprets information. So when you read something and you go, that's just what I've been looking for, that all of a sudden turns into knowledge, and it's always and only ever relevant to you. But when you share that knowledge, because it was of benefit and it's appropriately registered, logged, put in a place that people can get to it, then that's knowledge shared. Like you were just saying, I have this great thing that I'm working on here and I'm adding real value to my people, but somebody else in a different country, they didn't have your brain, they didn't work that out. They have that information, but they don't know how to get value from it. Yeah. And so knowledge sharing is what Cortex is going to do. It's going to be able to provide that link and that information.
All right.
So we know that we've said already that Cortex is going to use AI to make these connections. We used to make manually. It's basically what we have in place. We know that. We have graph connecting people to content. We have graph connecting people to people. We have graph meeting people with subjects and meetings and all of that metadata and associated things. And Cortex focuses on these connections. It surfaces that potential knowledge. And that knowledge then needs to be verified, all right? Because there's so much information out there, which you said, I had to clean it all up, put the relevant stuff in there so that it can make relevant connections. But there's a lot of things out there that will just come up that are, oh, we've tried that and it doesn't work. Somebody needs to be able to turn that off or to disable it or not turn it into a knowledge topic. And that's the role of the knowledge manager. And again, we will hit on those roles a little bit further on. But within the organization, there are people that know their stuff, okay? And we came up with this quote a couple of days ago, okay, from Vice President and things. And there are things we don't know. And it's what you don't know that has the value. Everything you do know is usually part of a current process. So I think this is brilliant. There are things we don't know. We don't know. I love that. Going to put that on a bumper sticker. Okay, we'll put it on the store and everybody can buy one. There are things we don't know. We don't know. But anyway, so it makes the connections. It will link your information together. It will make suggestions that you then have to verify. And that's the role of a knowledge manager. But we need to know where these knowledge managers are going to come from.
It's true. Yeah, and also, as you said, like, we need all these things combined. We need all these things getting connected to each other. And because we used to do it manually, we couldn't always see what was right further than our, yes, the next step, exactly. So we can't always see that because it's a manual process. And that's when the AI comes in, and it can make that next step. It can propel us forward so that we can then
get creative and innovative.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. So I think that is really where the AI will come in and make a difference. That is what you're paying for in Project Cortex.
Yeah. Knowledge 2.0.
Exactly.
This is a great slide. I got lost down a rabbit hole. If you was on our search presentation a while ago, I went around this. I was kind of looking for organizational structure, and then I found authors of these books, and they were doing 1,000 other things, and there you go. But one of the really interesting things that I found was that at the beginning of this century, we started to realize that kind of organizational structure had some real benefit that was more than just the sum of its parts. So we groups together and hunted for food thousands of years ago. The military and all of their strategies for wars were all about manipulating people. But at a closer level to us, in the 1900s, so the 1930s, we saw this science emerge about organizational structure, and that it's driven by the employees, the people in the business, as an artifact. So one business had a different set of organizational structure that worked for them to a different business. And so there was a science started to emerge in the 30s that people started to study this. And there's a few things worth looking up. Start off by Wikipedia, just do organizational structure, but make sure you got a couple of hours spare. But in the 60s, they realized that it was about the skills of the people and the knowledge of those people. So what they were learning from each other, and how they could make their structure efficient for the organization they were working for. Today, it's accepted that the organizational structure is more an expression of where the organization needs to go, and that innovation and working on the value of that knowledge. So if we take that organizational structure, we need to understand where the knowledge is. So there's a very simple structure here. Okay, good, brilliant. All right, so a very simple structure, C-level, yeah, you know, CIO, etc., the senior management and kind of team leaders, and the kind of delivery matrix. And there's a level around the middle of the organization, which is where the knowledge managers sit. Okay, so those knowledge managers understand the strategy that's being handed down from above them. Okay, they understand the things that are being fed up from the delivery matrix, and they've been in the organization long enough to know where the information is and the history, and they can take that knowledge and make the best use of it. And so those knowledge managers are really important. These are the guys that say that topic is important, and I think we should move it forward as recommended by AI. Plus, there's also an ability that they get to actually seed those topics and actually say, you know, nobody seems to be talking about this new material that would have benefit for us. And so they kind of can seed that, and then basically it'll start to find content through AI. So we drive it. But then there's another role here that is equally as important. And these are the guys that are working right on the production line. So they know about their product and the CRM and what HR needs to do and what they need to make. And these are the subject matter experts. And as part of the process, if we move on to the next slide, as part of the process, you can see here that basically they have a different role in a different part of the area.
Yeah. So when we take a look at the architecture of Project Cortex, you clearly see the technical stuff down at the bottom, and the end users are discovering it on the top. So these end users, they're going to get that knowledge through Microsoft 365, through the search, through Outlook, through all these applications. But really where all that information is coming from your Office 365, your Microsoft 365, and it can also come from those external data sources. And all that data gets mingled in, it gets connected.
Mingled data.
Mingled data and connected data.
Make a note of that. Hashtag mingled data.
And then the Microsoft Graph and the AI is let loose on that data, and it's gonna actually take a look at it, connect all the dots, and in that Cortex bring out a number of things or suggest a number of things. That is also where that knowledge manager comes from, because that knowledge manager, yay, okay. That person is actually the person who is gonna take a look at the topics that the AI is gonna present and is gonna say, yes, that is actually a topic, and no, that is just plain wrong, that's not a topic at all. So that's the person who's gonna say, yes, these are topics that we need, build topic pages for that, and then let the experts come in and fill those pages further up.
So what it's going to do is, and we're not going to go into this in too much detail, I'm sure you've seen this slide if you've been hanging around on these presentations following Cortex about 85 times today, but I wanted to focus on the fact that it then will build all of these cards automatically in the content center. So the resources that IT need to put into this suddenly start to kind of evaporate. So IT around the bottom of this, and then the knowledge managers, and then of course those subject matter experts start to fill out and identify and get connected to the appropriate content. And then everybody benefits from that sort of magic threesome of, you know, the IT admin support, the knowledge management, and yes, the SME.
Yeah, true. All right. So let's take a look at those 3 roles. So to actually provide a good service, you always need an administrator, and that administrator will be an IT person. For Project Cortex, the role of a content services admin has been defined, and that is really the person who will take a look at the service. Is it still running properly? Do we need to change anything? It is the person who will manage all kinds of service requests. Like, for example, what was the tool that you were referencing earlier? ServiceNow, for example. So what if a part of your business comes in and says, okay, this whole Project Cortex is super cool, but we also want to put some ServiceNow terms in there, some knowledge in there. So can you make that happen? This is the person who will do that. It's the person who understands that knowledge system, understands the back end, assigns access to these things, and just has all the rights to change it all up.
They have a second role as well, because they are the person that also knows where all of this content is stored. And we're going to talk about it a little bit further on, about how you make sure that only appropriate topics are presented to the business. But because they manage the security and the content containers where a lot of this is stored, and you know, the compliance and security stuff of Office 365, then they have a role there to do as well. And that's a kind of handover again between the business and IT in terms of making sure that it's compliant and available to whatever governance. And then we get on to the wonderful knowledge manager. What makes a good knowledge manager? It has to be a people person. It has to understand who in an organization is doing something. So when they set up a topic, they can go, oh yeah, John was dealing with that, and that's from this department. So they need to be understanding the people. So knowledge is about the expertise that we have in the organization.
It's about people.
Yeah. Yes.
I see that, but also I kind of think that this knowledge manager has to be, of course, a social being. I get that, but also be able to connect those dots.
Correct. It needs to know the business and who the right person is.
Exactly. Yeah, where you want to go with the business, what the strategy is, what the vision and mission is, and how to drive forward.
When we did our first project together in that organization, our boss was so well connected. Whenever we needed anything, he just went, no problem, and he made a phone call, and then we were talking to the right people to get the right information on that SharePoint site. And that is such a cool resource. Absolutely. And they're going to come into their own. They will be able to take Project Cortex for a real run and real value in the organization. Yeah. So yes, they need to be around for a while, and they need to know where they're going. But the key one is the bottom thing here. Yeah, they need to be a business person. And knowledge managers have always been so far, well, not always, but mostly tied into IT in some way. And that has to change. You know, I think that knowledge managers need to be in the business, and there'll be more than one of them, by the way. There won't be one in the business. For Cortex, you know, depending on the size of the organization, there'll be a team of knowledge managers. Oh, we need a new term. What's a group of knowledge managers called? Yeah, we'll have to work that out. You know, a pack of dogs. So we'll have to come up with a knowledge management. That's the subject for a podcast. Yes.
A troop. No,
accrued,
no,
not now,
yeah.
not now.
Okay, cool. No, but definitely it has to be a business person, because the whole project Cortex has to be driven by the business. The IT part of this is fairly easy, it's fairly low. Well, the management of it is fairly easy, fairly low. The biggest part is the business part. The people that are saying, okay, these are topics, add new topics, the people that are filling it in, make sure that the knowledge is there, the knowledge is spread, and that's where the real power of Cortex comes in.
Yeah. Right. Haha, the SME. The SME. There's always an expert that just likes to do his thing in the business. You know, the guy that manages the firewall, the guy that just does process management, the guy that does KPIs, or the girl, I should be fair, you know, or the lady that kind of, they always work in finance? No, let's not go here. But there's always somebody that has an expertise. And they are the people that's going to enthuse and generate so much interest in a particular topic and a particular work area that everybody else will want to get involved with. They will add the people that they've been working on a particular subject, but they will be able to go in and decide what is good knowledge and relevant to that topic, and what is bad knowledge and distracting for that topic. You remember I said earlier about organizing your content? These are the people that kind of just make sure that, you know, their libraries are up to date and the versioning is good for all of the kind of specification documents they may have, projects they've delivered, the information around their particular area of interest. And again, 100% in the business. There will be a subject matter expert for IT, of course.
Of course,
there will be IT topics.
Yes, and more than one, because
yes.
there are lots of IT
IT
topics.
is a big area. But yes, so the subject matter expert is on the ground floor, dealing with the screwdriver stuff, dealing with making sure operations are working well. And that is what I really love about this whole business aspect of Cortex. You start at the bottom, who are talking and working with project managers in the middle of the organization, and then IT that is managing the content and helping with the services. And that, but to me, that's a squad. You know, in an agile perspective, it's a squad. A squad of knowledge managers. Yes, we get there eventually.
Look,
absolutely.
Boom. Yes.
So this group of mixed skills will be one squad, and their job will be to manage that in an agile way, iterative. Oh, listen, we haven't got enough time to go down this idea, but one that we need to follow on a little bit.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the subject matter expert. Now, one of the things that Marijn and I was talking about a few weeks ago was worrying about AI and being able to find all this content that we kind of forgot about, and making sure that somebody doesn't suddenly start a topic on a takeover of a company that is supposed to be kept quiet and secret and shh, don't tell anybody, especially if it's a financial organization where there's a lot of Chinese walls. But we're really glad to hear that Microsoft have considered this, and that all the existing rules and regulations and policies get priority. So compliance is king. So security policies applied to content, they get included. If you have content excluded from search, so all the indexing and the crawl rules that are currently in place, then they will not get picked up as topics. Even if AI Cortex says, hey, this is such a cool topic, but if at the end of the day it's not indexed or crawled, it will never find it, which is really, really good to know. Plus, there's an ability to put those glass walls in place if need be, because a topic can be blocked. So nobody can raise a topic based upon the name of your CEO, for example, and those kinds of things. So compliance is definitely king. And we're also hearing that there's going to be a lot more APIs working around here in Graph and Cortex coming, I don't know when, of course, but this will be able to drive and be able to control and steer more of the content that AI looks at. And there's also connectors as well. So you'll be able to actually be able to drive content from connected systems and not just from within your Office 365 environment. So no need to worry. It is as per whatever rules and regulations and controls of your content you have at the moment, all of those will be considered. Sounds to me the easiest thing is if you don't want some content to be considered, just take it out of search and it's not going to get caught up. So that's a really easy rule.
Absolutely. And I just love the fact that they're just going to keep every security rule in place. So if I don't have access to a specific site or to a specific document, it will not appear for me.
No,
that's brilliant.
And that's even if it's in a topic page. So even if I've got a topic page with 20 documents, but I only have rights to 10 or 12 of them, then I'll only see the 10 or 12.
Yeah.
And this is another perfect example of where the business is key to this. So they're already part of setting your compliance. Security will be involved in doing your asset categories. Compliance will be involved in making sure you do GDPR and any of the regulations. So all of that is brilliant, will be included. Compliance is king. Long live the king.
All hail the king.
All hail the king.
Yes, that's the one. Yes. All right. So for us to end this presentation, I want to give you some practical steps, things that you can do right now. Well, maybe not right now because it's almost 10 o'clock at night, but tomorrow, let's say, or next week, so you can think about it in the weekend. So 3 steps that you can do right now in order to prepare you for the coming of Project Cortex. So number 1, identify who your identify what your topics might be. Already think about
the usual suspects.
Yes. The usual suspected topics. Think about those. Think about if you already made that exercise. For example, I have a customer that already did this exercise 5 years ago. They didn't follow up on that, but there's still documentation around that. These are the topics that they wanted to do knowledge management on. So if you already have these, brilliant, take them out and review them, see if they're still valid, see if you can add any more to them. Then as a second step, take a look at people you know in the organization and start to identify who would be a good subject matter expert, who would be a person that would know more about certain topics. And if you got those people, ask them if they want to be involved in the future rollout of Project Cortex. Ask them if they want to ask their manager, because they need to put some time in. Make sure that they ask their manager, that they get that time, that they get that budget in order to do this. So you get your topics, you get your people, and then what you want to do is you want to kind of build a champions network, a key user network. So you can do that in Teams, for example. Just set up a team where all these people can be in together. You can notify them on upcoming changes. You can send news their way. You can already ask them around things to think about. Like, for example, what would be acronyms around that topic? What would be good documents around that topic? So you can already start building those out. Yeah. Cool. So those are the 3 steps that I want to leave you with. And do you have anything more to add on this one?
No, I like the idea of that business relationship with those champions, and I think it's important. And it's interesting that they understand that a lot of this is computer generated by AI. So again, you're starting to introduce graph to these people as well. It's going to be a great way to grow collaboration and knowledge management in the organization.
Cool. All right.
Excellent.
Nice. So that just leaves us with saying thank you so very much. Don't forget to use the virtual marathon hashtag M365VM. Don't forget to use our hashtag as well, Office 365 Distilled. If you have any questions, if you have any remarks, if you just want to say what a piece of bollocks, this is just rubbish,
or if you don't like his t-shirt, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Mine, of course, is brilliant. Nice whiskey.
It's true. Take a look or take a listen at our podcast, see if you like it. If not, let us know. If you do like it, let us know as well.
Cool. And feedback on the event. So
absolutely.
Scan them. It's so much easier at home, isn't it? You only have to kind of do this, whereas in a hallway you're trying to zoom into the big screen, and but I'd still rather be speaking to you from a podium in Las Vegas.
Absolutely.
But we really do hope you've enjoyed it. We took a subject that we really thought was going to be really beneficial to people. We hope you thought so. Let us know. And so I don't know whether there's any questions. We'll check now. But otherwise, we are finished, and thank you very much.